Hey there, come to you from a breezy and temperature dropping Friday afternoon here in Michigan. and have had a really productive week just over the course of the last, I don't know, probably 36 hours or so. I touched base with all the people that I wanted to ask them about their interest in helping me grow the community so that when we actually do launch it, it's not just a community of one and everyone's interested. We're going to be getting together on Sunday night and talking about it and kind of just going into more of the plan and all of the details and stuff. But I'm super excited about it, and all the conversations were really invigorating. But it's interesting because, yesterday I was talking about how I found my people, and I've just been doing more thinking about that. I mean, we've got the prominent three generations right now out there. I mean, let's just, at least the ones in the working world, are Millennials are the youngest. Then you got us Gen Xers, and then there's the Boomers. And there's still a number of them still out in the workforce because some of them actually are, I don't know, in their late 50s. So really interesting dynamic. But the one thing that I've said a lot over the last several years is that I love the evolution that I see. And it's, what I mean is like the evolution of probably human kindness more than anything else. Back when I was growing up, it wasn't too uncommon to, overhear conversations with people wherever you were at, out in public or whatever. And they were like really foul and like racial comments, and that stuff seemed to be a heck of a lot more prevalent way back, in the 70s and maybe early 80s as I was growing up. And even back then when you would hear stuff like that, it didn't feel right. And my parents certainly did not endorse anything like that, which was really good. But I think the generation before the Boomers might have been a little bit more commonplace. And so it was nice to see the fact that it went from, that type of stuff through the Boomer generation and got neutralized a little bit. And I feel like Gen X did a really good job of neutralizing that type of stuff even more. And now you've got the Millennials and the generations to come after that. And it seems like the human beings certainly are coming out a lot kinder. But you can certainly see the huge conflicts that happen between the generations as well. I mean, I remember having a conversation with my mom and dad and told them I wanted to start my own business. And I remember my mom said to me, she's like, "Oh, honey, that's great. We are 100% behind you." And then she said, "But are you sure you don't just want to get a job and so you can work there and retire and get a pension someday?" And I said, not really. I said, I understand that if I did that, I'd have a predictable life and predictable income, but I would feel like I had somewhat of a ceiling. And I feel like if I start my own business, I've got more freedom and more limitations and whatever. And I know with her making that comment, it wasn't, they always supported me, which is beautiful. That's why I talked about, several times, or at least a couple times, about how I felt like I could accomplish anything because that's how they built me up. But when she made that comment, it wasn't negative. It was loving, because when she grew up, the Boomers, and when my dad grew up, they were Boomers, and they really value security, job security, and just, the more of a traditional view. And, they're very patriotic. And a lot of that's probably because their parents were in the war, and it's just, you think about how all these things impact each other, right? But then with me, because I always had like this strong desire to not like stick and do anything. I remember a mentor of mine having a conversation with me when I was probably 25 or 26, and he said, "Pete, you've done a few different things and you've done them really well, but like you need to pick something and stick with it, because if you have some longevity, then that will create other opportunities." And fortunately, even though it felt icky at the time, I stuck with Mindscape for, well, it's 21 years now. So it was very wise counsel from him. But even I figured out a way within Mindscape to make sure that we were continuously changing. Obviously, Mindscape is one of those industries that changes all the time anyway. But we were always looking at ways to do things differently. I mean, we were doing 4-day work weeks back in 2006. And that was right when only a few companies were doing that type of stuff. We had one of our employees that we allowed to go work or go on a vacation, I think, to Australia, New Zealand for like 30 days. And we just said, work while you're there. You'll be bringing back a different experience. But that would not be, those are not suggestions that are going to be openly embraced by very many boomers that I found. Now, I actually do know quite a few of them that have embraced that type of thinking. But that's the same way as you're going to find some people in Generation X that really embrace the Millennials. Because, you know, as Generation X, we were taught that we should, you know, get a job, get an education, get a good job, so that we can work there and retire someday and get a pension. I mean, that was the narrative. I talked about that long ago. And as Gen Xers, we didn't necessarily embrace that philosophy as openly. And I think, well, in my case, it really kind of impacted me because that was in my head for a long time, is I should have done this because everyone says you should and whatever. But I think through that feeling of pushback against certain things like that were that type of way of thinking or whatever, the desire to push back, now I'm starting to recognize might just be more of a generational thing than even a personal thing at all. Because really, that's one of the things that Gen Xers are a lot more laid back, and they think about work-life balance a little bit more. And so if we're thinking about work-life balance more, and we're shifting from the way our parents were to the way we are now and valuing work-life balance, you know, our kids are going to be hearing us talk about that and seeing us do it. And they're going to do things probably even more to an extreme in that area, right? They're going to want more flexibility, like work from home and all this. And that really is the millennial generation. Now, as a Gen X, and especially as an older Gen X, I have a decision of whether I want to, you know, like, I don't have to be one-sided. I don't have to be like, oh, I'm a boomer Gen Xer or I'm a millennial Gen Xer. I really love the lessons and actually just the mindset of all of the different generations, because it just gives it more, I don't know, more texture, adds more to the experience. But it is, so I feel like as Gen Xers, we're kind of like the middle child, and we get to look up to our big brothers and sisters that we admire for all the great things that they've taught us and all the accomplishments that we've had. And then we get to look down at our millennials, you know, our little brothers and sisters, and get excited about the things that they're going to do and the things that they're going to accomplish, especially as they expand and do things differently than us. That doesn't mean it's bad. And so, you know, all these videos and the stuff that I want to be talking about really is from the perspective of Gen X. But I think it is a really interesting thing when you are that middle child, and when you actually take the time to look around and see the good stuff that's coming from your big brothers and sisters, and the good stuff that's happening from your little brothers and little sisters, and not necessarily let the differences become annoyances and make us just shake our heads in disgust. But I think that's part of having a growth mindset and being open to look at things different way. And that's what we need to do from my perspective. At least that's what I'm going to do. So if you think differently, let me know below. Give me any examples of this that you've seen. I'd love for people to leave comments and share that type of stuff. So I'll start asking for that more too. You know, I'm just a beginning YouTuber. Hopefully I'll get better and follow more protocol and etiquette later. Thanks, bye.